Hello and welcome to the subscribers videocast, looking at the week's news from another angle and put into another context. And with me, as always, in Manchester, which is warming up, isn't it? Is Richie Allen.
It is, mate. Good morning. It's warming up. It's still wet and grey, as Manchester tends to be all year round, but it is warmed up considerably. Thank heavens for that. Good to be chatting with you. You've had an interesting week.
Yeah, I've done a few interviews. I did one that was very very good to do in London the other day, which went out live on Facebook, and I'm very encouraged by the number of mainstream presenters that not in the national mainstream, but in local mainstream, who are actually really into this information. It's you would never have got that a few years ago.
No.
And talking of the media, I just want to say a thing about someone I worked with a long time ago, called Keith Chegwin. He was a very famous children's television presenter. Also did a few pop music shows, and he had this reputation of being, just an idiot and just really low level television, and some of it was, as he would admit, especially later on when his career was going down. But Keith Chegwin was a really lovely man. He was a genuine man. He was always chirpy, and he was a decent man. And when we see people on television and we criticize what they do, it's worth remembering that there is a human being behind, behind the celebrity, and it's not always the same human being that you think you're looking at. Because Keith Chegwin, although he seemed to, he did a lot of shows that were like you'd say were I would say not classy. They were real pop tabloid television. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Yeah.
And he did it ever so well. But behind that was a lovely, lovely bloke. And it's sad for his family that he's gone so early. He was only 60. But in terms of this week, the celebrities have been in the news a bit. And I did have to smile this week when the former footballer and now a presenter of football programs for the BBC at an extraordinary level of income, something like 1.8 million for presenting a program that's
right.
called Match of the Day, that's actually, having experienced all that years ago, is just about the easiest television program the presenter could ever present. It's just, you could do it with your eyes shut, really. But anyway, he's started commenting on, in recent years, about current events, like he's anti-Trump and anti-Brexit and very dismissive of various things, which maybe he should learn more about before he dismisses them. But it was interesting this week that he says what he likes and doesn't really get a lot of backlash from it, certainly from his employers at the BBC. But this week, he went into a whole new league when he started casting aspersions on the behavior of the Israeli army, because he retweeted, as they say in the parlance, a video of Israeli troops arresting children, putting them in handcuffs, and then putting them in a cage. And he rightly said that this was sickening. And of course, what then happened is he got the big backlash from the Zionist lobby, which is incredibly well organized and has a whole army of trolls working on its behalf. He might have realized that he was dealing with another level of opposition in terms of that. So that'll be interesting to see where that goes.
He got Peter Lerner used to be the spokesman for the Israeli Defense Forces, And Lineker tweeted the video, which was posted by Ben White, the Palestinian activist. And as you said, Icke, it's a disgrace. What's in the video is disgusting, and it is sickening. But when Lineker tweeted it on, this guy Peter Lerner jumped in, telling him he had missed the point, and then started having a go at Lineker because he hadn't previously criticised other abuses of human rights and all this nonsense. I wonder, David, has he woken up to a new reality, I wonder? You don't criticise Israel.
Well, if he's got any intelligence, he has.
Yeah.
Because, of course, the reaction was very immediate and very organised. And that's the way these people work. And what it does is intimidate people into silence. So it will be interesting to see if Lineker goes on criticising Israel from this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, or whether someone at the BBC has a word in his show, like as they say.
Yeah.
Because you can criticise Trump if you're at the BBC. You can certainly attack Brexit, but criticising Israel and its behaviour, well, that's quite, like I say, a totally different league. In fact, people are so intimidated by it that they won't even discuss it. When I had my book launch cancelled by Manchester United, and it was the local MP and this football anti-racist group, Kick It Out, that was involved in that. Neither the MP or Kick It Out knew anything about me and what I was saying. They were just repeating what the hate groups tell them I'm saying, and that's the end of it. But anyway, one of the funders of Kick It Out is the Professional Footballers Association. That is like the trade union of professional footballers. And of course, it's very, very wealthy. I was a member of it once, a long time ago, very long time ago, when I played football professionally. In those days, it was a certain percentage of your income went to football, the Professional Footballers Association. It's a very wealthy organization because of the money that the top footballers get paid today. Anyway, the head of the PFA, Gordon Taylor, has been in that job for a heck of a long time. And I did some work quite closely with Gordon Taylor at one point, because I wrote a book called It Doesn't Have to Be Like This, which is the first book I ever wrote. And it was a guide. It was when I was at the BBC. It was a guide to young lads coming into professional football and all the pitfalls that await them, which they can, bypass if they know how it works. And I worked very closely with the educational officer at the PFA in Manchester at that time. I had a lot of conversations with Gordon Taylor. In fact, he gave a quote for the book, in support of the book. And I wrote to him this week, just to say, well, actually it was last week now, it's about 8, 9, 10 days, probably 10 days ago, pointing out what happened at Manchester United, pointing out the input that Kick It Out had in regard to, of course, the PFA being a part funder of Kick It Out. And I sent a video with the email explaining what actually happened, the sequence of events. And I've not had a single reply from
not a word, mate. No, not a word. Wow, I'm surprised at that.
And to be honest, I didn't expect one, because when you go into these areas, people absolutely freeze. And Gordon Taylor coming out and saying, actually, we part fund Kick It Out, but actually what's happened here is not right. They won't go there, because it's not about defending freedom of speech. It's about defending their own position.
That's right.
And this is not unique to the PFA. This is what happens all over the place. And it's why these tiny, vociferous hate groups do so much damage to freedom of speech, because these people don't have a backbone, and they're looking at, well, what are the consequences for me? Well, what are the consequences for all of us if this destruction of freedom of speech continues to go down the road that it is? And what I've done also today is challenge the campaign against anti-Semitism to report me to the police, because if I am saying what they say I'm saying, which I'm not, then there are laws against it, and they have sought to prosecute other people, have the police prosecute other people for doing what they say I'm doing and what I'm saying. So I've said to them, put up or shut up. Go to the police and report me for what you say I'm doing, and let's get this out into the open.
Excellent.
But of course, that's not the road they want to go down, because they can't show that what they're saying about me is true. It's extraordinary what is happening, and how backboneless, spineless people will simply not address it and look at the free speech implications instead of the implications for their own careers. It's another week also, talking of Israel, Richie, in which we've had unimpeachable, unquestionable confirmation of the right of Israelis to occupy and take over the land of Palestine. Netanyahu's given us all the proof we need. He's announced that it says so in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
Yeah, it's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
So that's it then. So let's just stop questioning
How dare we?
The Israelis' right to do anything in the land of Palestine, including illegally occupy areas of Palestinian land, because it's in the Bible. And of course, who wrote the Bible? In what circumstances? And it's a joke. It really is a joke. But what I'm more and more seeing, I don't know if you are, is that they're overcooking the pudding. This campaign against anti-Semitism is overcooking the pudding in regard to me, and Israel's overcooking the pudding because and it's been brought to a head by this recognition of Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. Well, it must be. It's in the Bible.
It's in the Bible.
And people are starting to shall we say, look at Israel in a more sensible, accurate light. And it was interesting to see a column in a newspaper this week by a journalist called Peter Oborn, who's, as mainstream journalists go, he's excellent.
Good guy, yeah.
And it says, Trump's turning Israel into an apartheid state. And he goes on to put to say that, you basically, if you want to bring this together, you have to have a state where Jewish people and Palestinian people are treated alike, where they have the same voting rights and they have the same human rights, etc. And he says that if that is going to happen, then that if peace is going to happen, then that's got to happen. And he says, or you can keep it as a Jewish state, as it is now. But if that's what you're doing, then it's an apartheid state.
Yeah.
And it's no good hiding the fact. Peter Oborn, I remember, did a very good documentary some years ago, which was pointing out the power of the Jewish lobby
for Channel 4.
Lobby.
Yeah, for Channel 4. Yeah. Just as you're saying that, it's worth mentioning to our listeners. Go to YouTube and look for Dispatches, Peter Oborn, the Israeli lobby, and watch it. It's very good. Very good. Yeah. Yeah.
And because he does try, I don't always agree with him, of course, but he does try to tell it like it is, yeah. and not pull punches. Another story this week that really kind of is very indicative of so much that's happened in the alternative media was a video posted on Infowars by Paul Joseph Watson, a British reporter for Infowars for a very long time. And it was about the Trump decision to recognize Jerusalem as the Israeli capital. But it was yet another expression of what so much of Infowars has become, unfortunately, which is an anti-Muslim, pro-Trump platform. And so this Paul Joseph Watson video, which you can see at davidicke.com, was attacking Muslims, attacking Palestinians, and giving a ludicrously, childlikely, inaccurate summary of the history of Israel and how it works. And, what has happened with alternative operations, well, I say alternative light, mainstream light, organizations like Infowars and one or two others, is that they so nailed their colors to the mast of Trump that they've basically either had to say, we made a mistake, or they've got to defend him almost whatever he does, and say that he is doing what he said he would do, and we supported him for saying he would do, when then he's not doing anything of the kind. And there's been a number of stories this week relating to Trump. Trump signed $700 billion military funding bill.
Yeah, massive, yeah.
U.S. President Donald Trump has signed into law a $700 billion in funding to the Pentagon, which includes a pay rise for troops and funding for a number of pet projects. It also breaks the ceiling set by the 2011 law on budget caps. And so here you have a president who, during the election campaign, one of the reasons was said he was supported by parts of the alternative media, who was saying we must bring an end to basically the American military imposing itself and intervening in other countries. And yet he's increasing the military budget to do just that. And then you've got this other story about 44,000 US troops on unknown deployments worldwide.
Yeah, that's incredible.
When the Pentagon, it says in this story, wants to mislead the public about where US troops are, generally speaking, they just lie. Yet sometimes the number of troops is just too big to claim as a rounding error. And questions start happening. This week, the focus is on over 44,000 US military personnel deployed to unknown destinations, which immediately raises red flags, of course, because that's not a place. Unknown. Pentagon officials, however, say there is no good way to describe where they are.
It's madness, isn't it?
It is madness. And of course, they're everywhere. They're in American troops are now in over 150 countries worldwide.
They're only down the road from us. Here, of course, they've bases here. It's absolutely amazing, really, when you think of it. But you know how many? Do you know you've been doing? You've been working as you have been, mate, for nearly 30 years, and despite the numbers of people you've managed to reach on your own, mostly, the vast majority of people in this country still don't know about the US bases here. They have no idea. No. It's incredible, isn't it? Madness to think.
I know someone who, for his work, used to go to Menwith Hill, the American listening station.
Yeah.
And it's supposedly an RAF base. But he said when you go through the main gate, which is RAF, you then go into literally, legally, the United States.
Mad.
And it's completely run by the laws of the United States. Same with underground bases around the world, like Pine Gap in Australia, near Alice Springs. I was in Alice Springs a few years ago on a speaking tour. Didn't speak there, but I was passing through. And me and a few others went out in a car to Pine Gap, which is about 30 minutes drive away, maybe a bit less. And you go down the road and you see the signs, Pine Gap, American base, turn back, turn back. So we kept going past these turn back signs until just in the distance you saw the outer gate, because of course it's all compartmentalized, outer gate, and everybody at the same time got this same feeling of a headache and nausea. And of course, what they're doing is they're projecting an electromagnetic field to anyone that passes those gates that ain't supposed to be there, or passes those signs that ain't supposed to be there. So we turned back because it was horrible. And then I went down to Ayers Rock by road, and then flew back to Alice Springs. And when you're coming in on the quite a low on the approach to Alice Springs on the plane, if you're on the left hand side, you look over into Pine Gap, and as synchronicity would have it, I was sitting in the right place at the right time. And it's all you see on the surface is like golf balls, the classic golf balls you see. And there's virtually nothing on the surface at all. It's all underground. And that is all owned, not by the Australian government, who are not allowed to know what goes on there, but the United States. And they don't even get supplied from Australia. A jumbo jet comes in, but locals were telling me, a jumbo jet comes in once in a while, filled with supplies for the base from America. And so no one basically knows what goes on there. And the only Aussies that work there are actually, very low levels security, who never see anything worth, or go near anything worth seeing. And this is happening all around the world. And Trump is just another frontman for this. Another story this week, the Trump administration is ticking off big oil's wish list item by item. The Trump administration's zeal for environmental rollbacks has enabled it to fulfill almost all the priorities in a wish list drawn up by the American Petroleum Institute, the API, the leading lobby group in the U.S. For the U.S. oil and gas companies. In a document called Comments on Specific Regulations sent to the Environmental Protection Agency, which is a contradiction in terms, talk about an inverted title. In May, API highlighted 8 key changes it wanted to ease the regulation of air and water pollution. And an analysis shows that the EPA has so far either partially or wholly delivered on 6 out of those 8 key demands within the first year of the Trump administration, which solicited input on government rules from a number of trade groups. So this man, who was supported by the alternative media, and let's not underestimate the effect that had in getting him in, is a massive just puppet, frontman, conduit for the very forces that the alternative media was supposed to be challenging and exposing.
He's the agenda on steroids.
Yeah, you don't see Infowars exposing the conspiracy in the same ways that they did before, because they become partisan. And once you become partisan, you're dead. You're no longer alternative. The alternative media's role is to expose the system, not to be partisan to one part of it. That's what CNN does. That's what MSNBC does. That's what the New York Times does. What the Daily Mail does. So it's sad. It's sad the way it's gone. But at least there has been a shaking up of the alternative media, where we've seen the difference between those that are genuinely alternative and those that have been basically in so many ways just playing at it. And because if you are an alternative platform, shall we say, then you are a global platform. You are looking for what is right for humanity as a whole. You're not partisan to a country or a political persuasion within a country. That's the old way. That's how we got into this situation. And like I say, parts of the alternative media have got pulled into this.
Yeah, do you know, the only thing what I've said consistently about that, and I've obviously known the guys at Infowars not as long as you, but long enough. I think tragically, in the vacuum left by people like Rush Limbaugh and Glenn Beck and others, I think, the people running Infowars saw an opportunity. There is a market for that sort of production and that sort of broadcasting, and it is lucrative. And sadly, I can only speculate because I can't, not being there. I see that vacuum Beck and Limbo, and I think they've seen Alex as, the next kind of big thing in that vein, and that's why it's kind of gone down that road. And like you said before, this great phrase that you use, nothing in the bank syndrome, they had and probably still have. He has plenty in the bank anyway. Over the years, he's done some very important stuff and gave a platform for people. And you've always said that. But this current incarnation of Infowars is, it's just Fox News, really. And that's tragic because, it was a great thing at one time. But anyway, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, and there's other parts of the alternative media as well.
Just as bad, yeah.
Who've gone down the Trump road. And like I say, it's very difficult. Once reality dawns, you don't want reality to dawn. So you can either hold your hand up and say, actually, we've been had here, or you kid yourself that reality hasn't dawned. And the reason he's not doing what he said he would do is because the system's stopping him. Of course, there is some truth in that. This is what this incredibly corrupt and fake Mueller FBI investigation into the Trump campaign's connections to Russia is all about. It's about stopping any coming together of Russia and the United States, which I think Trump genuinely would be open to. But he can't go there now because if he gets closer to Russia, it's like, hey, look,
game over.
The Russians are controlling him, so they've done a job on him there. But in most of what he stands for, he's actually at one with what this network of manipulation wants. And of course, the mainstream media we know about, and here's a story, ironically, in a mainstream media newspaper: sinister campaign that could prevent press from exposing crimes. Proposals which could let criminals, rogue business leaders, and corrupt politicians escape being exposed will be voted on in the House of Lords in a fresh assault. That's the second chamber of the British Parliament for people around the world. In a fresh assault on press freedom, peers have tabled a raft of chilling amendments to the data protection bill passing through Parliament. And, I do have sympathy with that because I don't want any communications to be censored to the point where free speech is destroyed, which is where we're going. But I would have a lot more sympathy for the mainstream media if it didn't itself censor daily, by the hour, in the way that it complains that this government proposal wants to do that. The new book, Everything You Need to Know But Has Never Been Told, is absolutely explosive in so many areas. But the mainstream media won't even begin to go there. I've spoken to journalists who about the book, who've read the book, who realize how explosive it is, who tell me they cannot get anything about it in the newspaper because the editorial control won't have it.